Hey, so we've got a lot of questions from people wondering, in your opinion, which is better, the CAT or the Cummins motors, and maybe why, or what's your preference?
Well, there's a lot of variables there. You could be talking N14 or B model or C15, ISX. So it's a very broad question, but I'll try and answer it. First of all, in my opinion, they all break. I mean, it doesn't matter what you got; it's going to break, and you're going to have problems at some point in time. So you got to compare apples to apples a little bit, and make sure that you're comparing the same horsepower to the same torque. I mean, you can't compare a C15 to a big cam because it's going to have more power. It's just the way it is. 15 liter, right? So, you got to be comparing the same thing. But like I said, they all break and they all cost money. So, I'm a Cummins guy for the most part, but this is my motor. This is B model CAT, and this is going in our cab over project that we have on YouTube that we're doing. We're going to rebuild a 86, is it? 87 cab over. So, yeah. So this is mine. So I own the CAT also. I think a lot of it determines on what you learn to drive in. It's kind of funny that way. It's kind of like a Ford and Chevy guy. I mean, I'm a Chevy guy because I grew up with Chevys, but the Ford guy grew up with Fords. And so if you're used to driving a CAT or a Cummins, then you're probably just going to say that that's what you like the best. But if you're comparing apples to apples, I'm a Cummins guy. I just like to work on them. But another thing that a lot of people don't think of when they're purchasing a motor, or a truck is where can I get this worked on? And there's depending upon where you're at. If you're in a big city, you're going to be able to find someone to work on it. But a lot of times, you'll find shops that only work on Cummins stuff, or only work on CAT stuff, or maybe aren't as good on Cummins as they are on the CATs. And so that's something that you're going to want to throw into the works when you're buying something. Is where am I going to have to take this to get it fixed properly? You don't want to sit and spend money fixing stuff that's not broke, right? So you want to make sure that whatever you've got, whoever's working on it, works on that particular model. So that's something pretty important, I think. Being a shop owner, is if you got a common customer, you want to get a motor that you want to fix. So, but yeah, it's so vague. I'm gonna say Cummins just because that's my favorite thing to work on. But CATs are great. I love C15. The B model's great. And I love the N14 also. That's probably my favorite motor. I do really like the big cam. I think the big cam is probably the best thing Cummins ever built. But when you start talking electronics, it's got to be the N14. Nowadays, it's all ISX. You can't get any of that stuff. And at the same note, you can't get a CAT either. And so I think it's a funny question when someone says, or a funny statement, when they say, oh, throw that Cummins away and get a CAT. Well, unless you're going to have a 2005 truck or whatever year they quit building, I think it was 8 or 10, but you can't get a CAT, or you're going to have to transplant it into something that didn't normally have it, and that's very costly to do. So I find it comical when people are like, throw the Cummins away, get a CAT. Well, you can't get a CAT, so you got the ISX.
In your opinion, if CAT was still making motors, would they, with emissions and all that, would they be having similar to the same amount of problems as the ISX is having?
I think that they would have as much, if not more, as anybody else, because the main problem with the motors these days is emissions. They all have their little quirks with the liners and stuff, but CATs drop liners too. And so you can't tell me that, you don't want a Cummins because the liners get low or whatever. CATs drop them also. But I think if CAT had to do emissions, they'd be having the same problem as everybody else, and everybody be complaining about it. You can't prove me right or wrong because you can't get one, but that's my opinion on it. Yeah, I don't know if I fielded that question real well, but I think they're both excellent motors. It's really what you want to drive, what you like. If you're not sure you want a Cummins, then you're probably going to hate it when you get it. Vice versa, same thing for a CAT, I would say. It's just what you're used to being around. And then the next thing would be, like I mentioned, is where can I get this worked on? Does the shop I normally go to work on either? Do they got a good CAT guy there, or do they not? You know, because you definitely want to be able to get it worked on, because I can promise you they're all going to break down. And so you want to be able to go someplace that knows what they're doing and can fix it cheap and responsibly, I guess, and not cost you a lot more than what you really need. So I guess that's the answer to that question. It's very long, but that's just my opinion. I'll choose Cummins, but CAT's a very close behind second. Like them both.